to episode 6 of Homebrew. This week we've got the Emmy-nominated Jim Rota from Fireballministry, the king of the groove, here to talk you through staying ahead of the game for the last 20 years and how cool it is when Ronnie James Dio is a fan of your band. All right, Jim.
All of the above. Yeah, how are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm good. I'm COVID-y and, waiting for a full vaccine like everyone else, I guess.
You come out of Cincinnati, and it isn't long before you're on tour with bands like Slayer and Motorhead, Anthrax.
It was a while. No, I could tell you, our band basically started in, it was Emily Burton and myself, and we met in Cincinnati. We were both living there at the time. I'm from New Jersey and she's from Indiana. And it was just like one of those weird things where we were like-minded in the music. And then, at the time, it wasn't like many bands that sounded like us were like, being paid attention to, basically. So, but, it's like one of those things you kind of make a decision early on, like, are we going to be a stadium band or are we going to be a band that, just plays the music that we like? And, if that happens, that we become a stadium band, that's cool. And, that was pretty much all of our, that was our mission statement. It was like, let's just play the music that we love. And, that's that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because, it's not like Fireball sound particularly like Slayer.
No. Well, that's the other thing.
That's the cool.
In our whole career, man, it's just been like, nobody quite knows where to put our band. Like when we first started touring, it would be like, well, give us a list of all the bands you guys want to tour with. And they were always bands that were kind of like ours or like our friends, like Fu Manchu and, Clutch and, other bands like that. And then our, booking agent would be like, well, we should probably get on, whatever, this and that and the other thing. And so, like offers were made, and it was always like, should we do a tour with Limp Bizkit? Will that help? That'll probably get eyes on us, but like, there's a difference between getting eyes on us and then, having people be like, what the hell is this at a concert, which is what you never want. Right.
Yeah.
And and I got to say, the only time we ever really experienced that full on, and this is by no means the fault of the band because everybody in this band are giant sweethearts. And the singer, Michael was the one that got us on the tour. But when we toured with Opeth here in the States, it was tough. It's different when you get to go on stage and play your songs and like you're like, oh yeah, you like our band already. It's cool. It's a whole other thing to like get on a stage and have people be like,
Yeah.
But whatever. We've had fun the whole time. I mean, 3 of us are still original band members, and it's still a great time for everyone.
That must have been weird because Opeth have got quite a defined style.
Yes.
That's a way of breaking someone down, yeah.
Well, but like, the singer loved us and he took us on tour, and like I always was like, we're always super thankful if anybody likes us and takes us on tour. I mean, that's what happened with Dio too. Dio was like, those guys are cool. They sound like, old school, stuff that we used to do, like he was super stoked. And that, that means more to me than any awards or anything, like fucking Ronnie James Dio likes your band. Like, I don't know. That's cool to me.
So I guess it's pretty cool. Yeah. It's up there. So like later on, you did release a tribute to Lemmy.
Yeah.
On I Don't Believe a Word. Record.
Yeah.
So how was that? I mean, obviously he was a big fan.
Yeah, with him, he was he was a very special person to all of us too, because they took us on tour as well, and I met him, through that. And then, we stayed in touch over the years, and it's just like, I would always say this to him too. It was funny because I was always like, why don't you ever play this, like some of the songs like that song, Don't Believe a Word, live? And I'm like, because, it would be awesome if people, realized how great of a songwriter you were. And he was, and he was like, well, like what song? And I told him that song, and he goes, well, who the fuck's going to sing the backups on that live, Phil? And I was like, Oh, then at that point you're like, Lemmy, you play whatever the fuck you want. But
yeah,
in turn, I love that song so much because I think it was great, and I always tell people that the only way you know a song is great is if it could be played a bunch of different ways, right? Like if you could sit down at a piano and play a song, get a whole band together and play a song, and play guitar and a song on acoustic guitar, right? It's like then that's a great song.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
so that was the thought behind that. Pussy had just passed, so it was just like we gotta do something, you know?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Melody is always king at the end of the day.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And the words, like his words are so, when, basically Lemmy, he wrote love songs. Like if you listen to the words, most of the time it's about someone breaking his heart or him breaking someone's heart. And then, that song just felt so autobiographical to me the first time I heard it, and it's like, that's the stuff that I love it when artists get that way, when they get like super, introspective and they actually like write songs about like their feelings and you know what I mean? It's like, it's better when you feel like somebody's put effort into it than, somebody just pushing it out there. And it was funny. Like I always looked forward to a new Motorhead album. Every time one was coming out, I looked for, because I knew that there was going to be, at least, if not all, 3 songs on it that were going to blow my mind, and that's, it's like, that's the cool part.
Yeah.
But man, that guy, talk about a life of no compromise, talk about just, couldn't care less.
Yeah.
Couldn't care less about what anybody thought. But at the same time was a super sweetheart and would always talk to fans and was never bothered by people. Like he used to he got his mail at the Rainbow, that was his place. And if you rolled in and you saw him, it was, you were in for, a good night of conversation. That's the shit I love. But anyway.
Well, yeah. So you get the heavy element in there, but the groove element as well that is pretty synonymous with Fireball, which also gets carried into the company band as well.
Oh yeah.
It's very it's significant. It sticks out. Is that just how you write? Is that something you?
Yeah, I think my main, the main songwriting team in our band is Emily and I. I mean, and I'm generalizing, like obviously, but that's how it's been over the years. Is Emily and I write songs together, and then we demo them, and then basically we hand them to to John, our drummer, and whoever else is in the band. Scotty now from and Scotty's a great drummer, great songwriter, great singer, pretty good bass player. Yeah. Just kidding. Yeah. But he, he's another just great creative force. And it's like, when all those things come together, all the elements happen. And, like we all grew up listening to like tons of different kinds of music. So it's like, that stuff's going to creep in no matter what. And I think to me, that's important, for any musician. It's like the more you learn, the more you listen to, and the more you get turned on to, the more you can, the more that contributes to what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
And like lately, I've been doing this thing where I'm listening to all the like I just realized I have no idea how Billie Eilish writes a song. You know what I mean? Like I have no idea how somebody modern writes a song. So I watched that documentary about her, and I realized like, oh, it's kind of funny, but I should try to write a song that, like it's fun to like imagine, pull the process and see. And I think that's how you get all these elements in, right? Is like by, like knowing that you don't know everything or your way isn't the right way all the time, and that there's other ways to do it that might actually inspire you. And I think that's really important. And I mean, I think that's why why we even started the company band was because like most of us were in other bands where we've been in them for a very long time. And it was just nice to be like, oh, well, here's like basically the world's most fun poker game, right? Like we'll get together and we'll write stuff, and we all get along and we're like-minded, and we have the same interests. So it's just music in life, to me, should be as fun as it can be all the time. And that's, that's basically my mantra. We don't get a lot. We don't get a lot of time. So there's always time to learn.
Well, yeah, you can't stand still. Yeah, it'd be very easy to do that, I'm sure. But
oh, it's so easy.
So from 1999 onwards, I mean, it's almost the exact point where things like YouTube, streaming channels start to get big, and you're thrown right in the cusp of it. So, I mean, did that really sort of change the early ways you were thinking about releasing this stuff, or did you fall into it quite easily?
Yeah, I mean, without sounding too, I never want to come off as bitter or that I'm complaining, because we're very lucky to have, accomplished I'm personally very lucky to have accomplished everything I have in life, and, the band would feel the same. And it's like, I think around 2005 is when the writing was on the wall. It was like, it's not going to be the same anymore. Like, you're not going to be able to, you're not going to be able to go out and tour and make a living, unless I just finished up making a new documentary, and in the documentary, Lars from Metallica's in it, and he makes this statement. He's like, did you ever notice that in the 90s they put up a giant, he said in the early 2000s, a giant wall went up, and all of a sudden no band could get big anymore, like huge. Not no band, but like, the last 20 years or 25 years, like there's not many bands like either still around that are playing stadium. Like, you could count them on 10 of your fingers, right? And that to me is, and Lars said it, and then we interviewed Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and he said the same thing, and it's just like, yeah, that was the result of all that stuff. Like, if you take away, and it's not, and like now it's even worse with the touring and this stupid, disease, because now even the bands that are that big can't go on the road. So it's like, how do you do it now?
Well, yeah, because a lot of the guys that are that big are probably quite high risk, because they're all in the 60s, more. Yeah, it's the same, especially with like the festivals you get. It's always Iron Maiden or Kiss or these guys that headline it. So I guess it's almost too easy to get something out there, isn't it? They just get lost in the.
Yeah, I mean, like, we're lucky that we have, we still have a base, and then we're also lucky that, we're lucky that other bands like our band, so we get opportunities that not a lot of other bands get, So, and again, it's like I said, at this point, everyone in our band actually really likes and cares about each other, and we we just want to have a good time and have fun. And it's just the best part about all of it is going to these different places still and meeting all these different people. And, like, just, I don't know, how crazy is it that, like, you're a kid and, you live here, and I grew up in, New Jersey, and I had all these crazy dreams of doing all this shit. And then just one day you wake up and you're like, why am I not doing the thing? There's no reason for me not to do it. Yeah, and you just go do it. Like, is it easy? Yeah, is it easy? No. Is it, is anybody gonna fucking support you? No. Like, you're gonna be up against every single obstacle because you're doing the thing that everybody wants to do, right? Like, you're not, anybody can, whatever. I don't want to dismiss people's lives, but, it's like, I think everybody at one point should grasp the thing that they love the most and at least make a strong effort to go do it, whether that's music or movies or acting or being a dentist or whatever it is. It's just like, grab a hunt with both hands and be the best version of that you can be.
Yeah, true enough. Yeah. So with all this, with the growth in these external things, and things like album sales take a dip, how's that affected like your touring schedules? And I'll get onto like some of your other products later, but in terms of
typically we at this point, due to our maturity, We typically do 2-week tours at a time. So like we'll do 2 weeks, and that's where we've comfortably, I'm not, whining about that. We still get to do awesome stuff, but it's like typically that's enough for us to be able to go out, make enough money, to come home with something, a little something, and then, enjoy ourselves, right? Like not have to sleep on a floor somewhere. So it's like, I mean, and I know a lot of bands are doing that. I know a lot of bands, that just do festivals, like I haven't seen a lot of bands tour in a while, even before all this crap, but they would always play the Euro metal festivals, like always. So it's like, I think that's the big shift. And I mean, rock music is not like at the forefront of the cultural revolution anymore.
Not anymore.
And a lot of that, I think, is because learning to play the guitar or the drums or whatever is not instantaneous. You're not an instant expert because you watch YouTube videos. You have to, my opinion, if you want to be a great guitar player or a great drummer, like the first step is to get in a room with like-minded people and make art with them. Like that's the important thing. It's not like you're fucking whatever. There's no other thing. Like you have to do it with people, and you have to do it with, like, it's the energy between the people, the electricity. That's what I remember when we interviewed Lars Ulrich for a different documentary we did. I remember he said, first of all, Metallica's the only band he's ever been in, right? That's first of all the craziest part. Second thing is, like, for real. So the second thing is that he told us that once him, James, Dave Mustaine, and Cliff Burton were all in a room playing together. He said there was a specific moment the first time that they played with Cliff that they realized the energy in this room could explode the earth. And that's what I think, I think that's what everybody should, strive for. I really do. I just think that's you want to create an energy that could destroy the earth, because that's going to make people excited. You look at a band like, and that's what all the great art does, right? Is it gets people amped, whether it gets them pissed off or excited or feeling, heartbreak or in love. Like, it makes you feel all this awesome stuff. So, like, what a great way to be part of people's lives. Like, that's how I see it. Like, it's just such a cool way to connect with people.
Yeah, and you probably get found out pretty quickly if it's not like that.
Oh yeah. So we know those bands. I'm just kidding.
We're probably more fun. So in 2019, we've gone through the MP3 sort of stuff, but 2019 rolls around, you decide to re-release second album on vinyl.
Yeah,
I know. Was that just something you always wanted to do?
Well, when we were first, like when our band first started, I mean, no one, and I mean no one cared about, vinyl records.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, we tend to give pay a little bit more attention to the fidelity of our stuff. So like we've always either done, our first record was 2-inch tape. Our second record was 2-inch for the bass and drums, and then we did the rest in Pro Tools. And then, and then it's like the fidelity and the sampling rates got higher in, in the computers. So then we started doing everything at a high sampling rate. Because for me, it's like with the people that like our band, if we're going to put something out, it's got to be the best version of that, right? So it's like, I take serious responsibility in making sure that if I'm asking you to pay, $30 or whatever for something, that you're getting the best and the most accurate representation of it. So, it's like if you go out and buy a record that they made, from a low bit rate and a low sampling rate, CD master, you're just getting a CD, like it's not any better sounding than a CD. You basically just copied it onto a record. And for us, it's like we take our masters, the mixes, back to the mastering lab. The guy that does our mastering, Gene Grimaldi, who's a genius, he remasters it for vinyl so that you're getting an actual like vinyl master from our, final mixes. It's pretty cool.
That is cool.
I think it's important. I really do.
Yeah, because I mean, this is what you do.
Yeah, and this is all I got. I mean, this is my legacy, right? This and my kid. Like, it's like if I was to kick off tomorrow, it's like I would rather have somebody have a good copy of our record. It's the weirdest thing I've ever said. Anyways,
well, yeah, it's true.
It's important. That's what's important, Chris.
But yeah, you're putting your heart and your balls into this stuff. It's
exactly
should be the best it's gonna be.
Yeah, I mean, look, this shit has almost killed all of us many times, so it better be worth it.
Worth it. Oh, yeah. So how's things shaping up at the moment? Are you guys even? Do you send demos to each other, play over it, play it back?
Yeah, we've been doing that at the beginning of the pandemic about a year ago. Like we played one of our old songs and put it online, and now it's just been basically like, I mean, like we do this thing. I mean, it's taken a while, but Emily and I have, like everyone else, like our phones have recorders on them. So basically, what we do is we start, like, I'll just sit in a room, dial in my guitar, and then I'll just start, maybe get a little, we call it get good. Maybe get a little good with some, substance, and then just kind of get in the zone, and then, kind of like just start riffing our brains out, and then we'll send those back and forth. And then half the time she comes up with a riff because of something I sent, and then I came up with a riff because of something she sent, and then that's how the songs start. Like that's how we've always done it.
Yeah,
and
Emily
and I are very connected when it comes to like, like I loved when we were writing with the company band. It was a lot of fun. And like, obviously every person that plays in that band is massively talented, and, it's a fun process, but it's like, writing with Emily is where I feel like the most, strength, like that's where it's, and I'm telling you, it's like, at this point, it's like a weird psychic connection where if I'm thinking of a riff, chances are she's got like two more riffs that'll go along with that perfectly.
Perfectly, yeah. Well,
like there's that song we have called Sundown, for example. It was like that kind of like, that classic metal, like kind of, I mean, and when I compare our band to other bands, I never think that it's in any way on the same level, but, it has that kind of merciful, you know what I mean? It has that kind of merciful fate, riff intro, and Emily wrote that riff, and I remember I heard it, and then I instantly wrote the chorus to go along with that riff. And it was like, that's how the process works for us.
Yeah.
And then after you get that shit, you put a click on it and you send it to, John, and then he just, messes around with it for a while, and then that's how we do our demos.
That's it, done. Man, it's working.
Yeah,
so
it's
why change?
So good.
But yeah, I mean, you can't really teach that sort of stuff.
No, and it's like, and again, we learned that process by all playing, together for, I mean, like I've been playing music with Emily and John for 23 years now, 24 years now. It's like, we know each other like the back of our hands, right?
Yeah.
Man. Sorry. Memory lane just happened. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. You're reminiscing. So there's always been quite a good product outside of just like the playing and the releasing the records as well. You've got a lot of diversity with placements on things like Sopranos, the biker one, Sons of Anarchy, wrestling games, stuff like that. So was that always part of the plan?
No, after, you learn, like after you're doing this for long enough, you start to realize like, oh, okay, people need this music for things. And it's just like, they always, like all the publishers, we don't have a publishing deal. Like we own all of our publishing, and the publishers always want you to give them your music, because especially the ones that place a lot of music, because they want to say like, hey, this is a real band. So this music is from a real band. It's not like a composer, which there's also nothing wrong with, obviously. But it's like for us, we know that there's a little more, if they want it to be a little more authentic, it's like you need a real band and you need real songs. So, I mean, that's where that stems from. It's just like kind of necessity at this point. Plus, I got to tell you, man, like especially the wrestling video game that we were in. I mean, every time we play, somebody from that generation will come up to us at every show and be like, "I heard about you from Monday Night Raw," and you're like, "Yeah, that's real shit." Just kill us. Did that kill us, or are we still good?
Oh, no, still good. I think you're back.
Cool.
So, yeah, well, good old Vince McMahon maybe owes you a few more dollars. Okay, so we'll move on to a quick rig rundown. I mean, you seem to have a guitar for every occasion from what I've seen.
I'm a monster. I'm on the unending quest. And I gotta be honest. I'm gonna tell you a secret. Most of my current tonality guitar-wise is basically me trying to find a frequency range where I can hear myself on stage with those three monsters. I mean,
good thinking. Yeah.
It's why I've been playing Strats and single coils lately, because it's like, then, between Emily's huge humbucker orange / like, death fuzz sound, and then, like, Reader is, I mean, in my opinion, he's the, one of the greatest bass players of all time. I mean, it's hard to watch a bass player play that instantly turns heads, right? Like instant. I remember I was working on a movie a little bit ago, and it called Sound City. It was a documentary that my partner John, that I produced with, and we made with Dave from the Foo Fighters. And Scott came in to play a song with Corey Taylor and Dave and Rick Nielsen. And I remember Butch Vig was engineering the session, and Reader rolled in with his old SVT, right? And he plugs it in the control room, and then they put his cabinet in an isolation room, and they mic it up. And then Butch comes in and he's like, "Okay, well, let's get your sound." And Reader, takes his bass out of the case. He walks over to the amp and he just turns everything up.
Bosh.
That was it. And then I remember Butch kind of looked at him, and then Scott started playing, and then Butch said something like, "Oh, okay, I'm done." Like, yeah, there, dialed in.
There you go.
It was crazy.
There's no windows left and have leveled the place, but yeah.
Right. So going back to your question, I've been playing Strats lately. I've been trying to turn, get my gain down a little bit. I have a 1978 Flying V, a Gibson that it's been on every one of our records. It's like, for me, it's the primary guitar. And then Emily has an SG from the same year that actually is her primary on the record. So it's kind of funny. That's like, if you want the secret sound, that's pretty much all it is. And then we always switch it up in the studio with amps, but live, Emily's been playing the same, 80 watt orange amp since our band started. And then I just recently started, a few years ago, started playing the EVH 5153s. And then Scott's just, classic Ampeg. It's like, that's, it's like, for our band, it's always like half a joke, because you're like, does it really matter? It's just fucking loud. It's like, on stage, you're just like, it sounds like static. I hope people are liking this.
Yeah, I suppose no one's really there going, is that the 78 or the 79?
You'd be fucking surprised, especially with the pedal boards, people are always questioning choices, which you're just like,
yeah,
I could play the show the same if I plugged my cord right into my amp as if I plugged it through all that shit. It's just, it probably would be out of tune a little bit, but other than that, it would be, you'd see the same show.
Do you think it loses anything? Because there's a lot of things like Kempers going around. Like the modeling amps and the digitals.
The last tour we did in the UK, we all tried to use the Positive Grid amps with our amps modeled in them.
Oh yeah.
And I did great with it. You know, the other two guys, you know, to their credit, it's like I would never, you know, I'm never going to tell them, you know, obviously what to play, but you know, it's not comfortable like for a band like us. But you know, as far as being the singer in the band, I can't say I would be mad if we all got into it, but then again, you know, if people don't feel comfortable on stage with what they're using, you know, it doesn't matter. As far as the tech goes, I'm going to say everybody, you know, I use a modeler for demos. I use the TL software, or STL software for my modeling. And, you know, I don't know, man. I always kind of even ask people, I'm like, do you think that tone is too much when I play them the demos? And then they say, whatever, this and that. And if they say it sounds great, I'm always like, you're hearing a plugin.
Yeah.
Just letting you know now. But whatever. The tech is getting really good. And the tech makes it easier and cheaper for us to tour, in my opinion. If I don't have to rent as much of a backline, if I don't have to worry about, you know, all that shit, it's like then it becomes cheaper. Plus, I could throw that head in my suitcase and have my amp there.
Well, that's it. Yeah, you know, no one's lugging it upstairs and out for you.
And it's my shit. It sounds like my shit. I have fun. I still love looking at, you know, I still love getting a new guitar. I still love, you know, swapping out pickups and dicking around, you know, all that stuff. I still love it. You know, I'm plastic off. Yeah, so fun, right? I have all this equipment at home, and there's a lot of stuff I don't use. And every time one of my friends has a kid who's showing interest, and even, you know, like pushing it a little further, I'm always giving them shit, amps, guitars, whatever I have, strings, straps, like, and you can see in their face, like, how am I getting this? You know, like, well, how is this happening? You know, and I remember when I was a kid, like, getting an electric guitar was a serious thing. Like that was a commitment, you know, not only from your parents, but it's also a commitment to you, because then all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, I need to show them that I'm serious about this. You know, that's how I grew up, you know, and it's cool. It's really like, it's great to see that kids still want to, there are some kids that still want to put the effort, and it's even better when you find a kid that's like really good at it. You know, like a kid who's a drummer where you're just like, shit, man, like you got the thing. Like, you know, it's so, you know, invigorating for me, you know, not to make it about me and my happiness, but yeah, it's totally invigorating.
Well, yeah, and not that common.
No, you know? Which sucks.
Yeah.
Anyway, old people.
Like it used to be. Okay, we'll crack on with your 5 at dawn, the 5 quick questions. Which can be as quick as you want. If you want to elaborate on them, you can.
All right.
Okay. Favorite venue to play? If you go on, it can be anywhere. It can be a massive place. Or it might be a small place. You got just a place in your heart for.
My favorite club of all time is the Troubadour in West Hollywood. A lot of history, great sounding room. It's a club that, since we've played on the stage and we've been in the audience, like I've been in both situations, it sounds just as great on stage as it sounds at front of house. And it really doesn't matter who's running the console, you know, like who's running the front of house sound, like it just sounds great. And I'd have to say in London, my favorite place to play, my second favorite place to play was the Astoria, which RIP, you know.
Oh, it's gone, yeah.
Again, that place was magic. And, you know, I think New York, you know, the big deal place for me when we played there was the Beacon Theater. Because the Beacon Theater was, you know, that I saw, you know, more bands there than I can count, you know, and that it's just a big deal. You know, it's always fun to play a place like that you saw a million shows at as a kid, and then you're like, fuck. Anyway.
Yeah, and now you're on the other side of it. Yeah. Yeah, people already talk about CBGBs in
I love York side. And CBGB sounded great for the people, but on stage it was kind of a mess. But it was, I mean, that place is classic and great too, you know, like, of course.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Is there anyone you particularly like to work with? Either a person or a band, I guess.
I'm trying to think. I mean, and I'm not just saying this because I love them, but I play with my favorite 3 musicians. Like I do. I play.
Perfect.
Even when I'm playing with other people, all I want to do is get back to playing with those 3. I mean, you know, I've gotten, you know, I wouldn't mind getting up with like ZZ Top and playing, you know, like Just Got Paid or something. Like I'm not gonna lie and say that wouldn't excite me massively. And like, there's a lot of bands like that where I would just, you know, it would be so cool to just get up and play with like your hero and do the thing, you know?
Yeah.
Like if I got to play, you know, Highway to Hell on stage with AC/DC, that's a big fucking deal.
Pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, but like as far as like writing with people, I probably would be too shy, but we'll see. You never know.
You never know. Yeah. Festivals or a club gig?
Festivals.
And
only because I usually get to see bands that I want to see really bad. That's you know, I'm still a fan. Like, you know, to this day, you know, all I spend money on is musical equipment and records. You know, like that's what I buy. That's how I contribute to the economy. So it's like, you know, when you get to go to a festival and see Overkill and Kiss and Manowar and all these bands on one bill, it's like, oh, this is a dream. And then other Euro festivals we've been to, it's like, oh, you get to see, you know, Bowie. Well, not anymore, but, you know, like before it was like, you know, it would be like those Euro festivals are so cool when it's not, I mean, I love the metal ones, but the non-metal ones, you get to see all these, you know, like Killing Joke and you know, Bowie and shit, like, you know, like bands that you don't typically get to see, but, you know.
Yeah, depending on the festival, yeah. Some of them are quite varied, yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Wine, whiskey, beer, or a coffee?
Coffee at this point, only because I destroyed my, you know, my heart. Yeah, I mean, for no other reason. Yeah. I would rather have a beer, but yeah, no, I'm off. You know, we in my house we like to say I hit the finish line. You know, like
all right, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not like, you know, I wouldn't say I was necessarily an addict, but you know, I definitely did some damage having a good time.
Fair enough. Well, you earned it.
A lot of coffee now.
Okay, and your last one: playing an old classic or playing something new?
Man, these are good. I mean, I love playing new shit just because it's new shit and it's fun. But
try it out.
Yeah, but it's nice to have favorites. You know, like it's my favorite thing is when everyone in the band is like, I love playing that song. You know, like there's certain ones that the whole band loves. Like that song we have, Choker, that probably will be in every single set list we ever play because everybody likes playing it. So I like it when it's that. But for the new stuff, it's just fun to see what people react to. You know, like that's the fun part. Like, oh, we did this new thing and people are super stoked on it. So that's like my favorite part.
But because I guess you got to be pretty harsh on yourself sometimes because there's probably things that you really like that doesn't go down so well, and then vice versa.
Always. I feel like every time we try, well, no, I don't want to say that. Never mind. I'm taking that back.
Fair enough. You're allowed. Great. Well, that's the end of your 5, and that's where we close. Thanks for joining us, man.
It was awesome. Let me know when it's up, okay? Because I want to share it, as long as I don't sound like an idiot.
No, you'll be all right. Yeah. We'll
okay.
And
cool, man.
Yeah, cool. We'll catch up and we'll see you.
Yeah, and say hey to Danny. Say hey to Danny and Kat. You know, we love them so much.
Yeah, we'll do. I'll drop one in.
Danny is the fucking best. All right, cool. And thanks for this, man.
Cool. No, thanks for joining us. Thanks for your time, mate.
All right, well, take care.
See you later, man.